And we're back. Loki, season 2, episode 3. It's on Disney Plus, has audio description, and it's fantastic. This episode, just fantastic. Done. Grade A plus. I guess I can explain why. I love this episode. I thought it was so quirky and so cool, and they achieved so much in 45 minutes. It was just very, very, just stylish. The music that they brought in for this episode was very just offbeat, very different than it felt like, not necessarily like the music we would hear normally in Loki. It set up sort of like this own little thing that was going on, and I loved it. I love this episode. The episode is brilliant. I think it's great. It features Loki and our our hapless Owen Wilson having to travel back in time, or to something. I don't know. It's back in time, but it's just also just one of those splinter timelines. So I don't know why it's back in time. Like, I don't know why they're at a different place in history in their timeline than everybody else. But they show up because they're looking for Mrs. Minutes, who has gone rogue. And they need her because that's what Obi is saying. There's a thing that only certain people can fix. And Obi basically needs He Who Remains or Mrs. Minutes. And they think they got Mrs. Minutes, and they think they've trapped her in this timeline. So they go after her here. But little do they know why Mrs. Minutes is there. Mrs. Minutes is there because there is a variant of He Who Remains. So, and this variant of He Who Remains is my favorite variant version of He Who Remains so far. He's very sort of like a bumbling, very in his head, he's both like an inventor, but also a schemer. Like, he's a very interesting character because he's not outright a douchebag in that way that you feel like He Who Remains would be. There are parts of him where you feel like this character is at a crossroads, and depending on who gets control over him, he could go either way. And we see him at this thing, and he's presenting an invention that's very like Thomas Edison-y, about like things that we could do in the future, and people are like, they're trying to buy it, and they're buying it at these really low rates too, which is hilarious. I love the bidding war where they're like, I bid $100, $200. Like, to them it was probably a lot in the time period in which they're bidding. Because when it gets up and somebody goes, I bid $1,000. I was like, dude, you can't even get an iPhone. Like, so, I appreciated everything that went into this episode, all the little attention to details. Mrs. Minutes also has with her, a rogue agent that has left the Time Force. She's outside of her purview, and is working to try to also help get Mrs. Minutes and this He Who Remains. They're trying to get him back to restore him in his rightful place. So it's this battle between Mobius and Loki and Mrs. Minutes and the sidekick and He Who Remains, all trying to figure out how to get through this episode. But it's this very interesting time period. It's very quirky. I love when Mobius wants to ride the tandem bicycle and Loki's like, no. It's just like, no, 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 I'm not doing it. Um, it's also a great time period for Loki because when he does his magic, people like Owen just keeps producing him as a magician, and they just believe that it's a magic trick, and nobody is like stunned by it that much. They're just like, ooh, look at that magic trick that that man just performed. It's like, sure, I guess. Yeah, we'll go with that. Magic trick. Um, it was a cute little moment where Loki's going through this carnival, festival, World's Fair thing. I don't know. One of three things. I think it's a World's Fair. Um, and there's this attraction that's dedicated to like the like Norse mythology, and I guess he's not featured, and he's like Balrog. Who even knows about him? Like nobody. He's stupid. Nobody knows. And then Mobius comes in with like, "You're just mad because you're not on here." And, oh, because no, these aren't even accurate depictions of people. And it's just, you can tell it's just like really upset by the whole thing. I don't know. God, this episode is just really brilliant. I know that wasn't like a traditional recap, but I just been sitting here like appreciating this episode. I think we need to just do that sometimes. I love the creativity that went into it. I love that this is how they attacked the episode. I love the little moments that we had in this episode. I love everybody that pops up in this episode. I don't know. Everything was great. Mrs. Minutes, this is like the most she's done in a long time. And I thought she was fantastic. Um, I'm loving this version of He Who Remains. I'm all about it. Like let's go. Let's go. Let's I hope he stays this way for a while. I love this version of him. If he's gonna go evil eventually, fine. But this version is so entertaining compared to previous versions where it's just like, all right, dude. um, yeah, I think this is definitely my favorite episode of the season. Um, I don't know if it's my favorite episode of all time. I really liked season one, the episode that had all the different Loki variants in it. I thought that was kind of a brilliant episode, and it really got us attached to all those different weird Loki variants. So might be my second favorite episode of the whole series, though. So, yeah, not watching Loki. What are you doing? What's wrong with your life? I already gave this an A+. You're still here? Audio description wise, yeah, it does great. It explains Miss Minutes does some interesting things, and it explains that some people end up in certain places, and Loki uses magic, and just a whole bunch of different things. Even the fact that we're in a different time period, while it does not spend as much time as I would have liked immersing me in this time period, blast from the past that we seem to be in, it does at least a good enough job. It's not like we're permanently living in this world, and it hints enough at it. And honestly, the score is just delightful. So everything about this episode, just chef's kiss. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do chef's kiss. Kudos to the team. This episode is brilliant. I gave it an A+, so thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll be back next week with another review of Loki, and we'll see if He Who Remains is remaining. Otherwise, his name is not really a great name if he's not remaining, right? He's got to be remaining somewhere. So, we'll find out. But until then, I will see you guys on the other side.